Welcome to another episode of Fight the Burnout, where we interview police, first responders, and military on the tools and tricks and strategies that they use to fight, counteract, or prevent burnout. I am your host, Chris Chandler-Yates, and today we have a special guest from Aurora Police Department, well, retired from Aurora Police Department. But before we get cracking into introducing him, remember, I always say this, take one thing away from today. We are overstimulated by knowledge these days. It's not that we need more knowledge. We just need to take action on that knowledge. So if you resonate with our guest's story today, please make sure that you just write that down and just put it into habit. Start for 21 days, just doing it every single day, whether it be a mindset thing, a physical thing, a work thing. Put it into habit for the next 21 days and then go for another further 90 days. It takes 90 days to lock a habit in, so you may as well add the two together and make it even longer so you actually make sure it happens. So without further ado, our guest today is Tim Jeffries. He is a retired sergeant from Aurora Police Department. He has a long-lasting career, and I can't wait to hear all about it. He does a lot of good, really cool mindset stuff. We've had a conversation before, so thank you, Tim, for being here. The conversation we had before went really deep into a lot of different, stuff that he's done. And he also did a lot for his troops that he was leading in the role of sergeant. So Tim, without further ado, why don't you take it away? Because I know if I keep going, I'm going to botch something up and get something wrong. So I'd rather, as I always do, let you take it away and tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into policing, your policing career, and we'll get into kind of some of the ups and downs and just go through that.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you. First off, thank you for having me, and thank you for everything you do and your attention to basically the burnout, which is just happening more and more. With a lot of the older cops and the younger guys, we want to stop them from getting to that point. I've been in law enforcement, or I was in law enforcement. I retired this year. 35 years, 8 months, and 5 days. Not that I really counted. I started my career in 1987 with the New York City Transit Police Department, which is now part of NYPD's. They're absorbed into NYPD, and it's their transit bureau. I was born and raised in New York, married. I've got 2 kids, a dog, and I'm living the good life. But when I started my career, there was no burnout. I mean, there was. It was Stone Age caveman policing, as far as the mental health aspect of it. And my job then as a young guy was you fit in, you kept your mouth shut, you did your job, and it was produce. I worked my way up very quickly with my partner at the time, and we went from working 8 at night till 4 in the morning, riding trains solo at the height of the crack era. Where policing was a little bit different than today. It wasn't as huggy-feely as, and I'm pretty sure statute of limitations are over, so we're okay. And wound up getting into some plainclothes operations. I mean, I had hair down in my behind and Fu Manchu and 5 earrings in, and we bought dope. We worked with TNT. We worked a lot of high-profile crimes, and we were loaned out a lot. Had a blast. I mean, it's a young man's game. We had a blast. But some of the stuff that we've seen, I mean, even today, I cringe when I think about the lack of any sort of mental health services that we had back then. If you had needed mental health services back then, it was Rubber Gun Squad, is what it was called. So everybody just kept everything basically inside. And then I wound up doing a lateral transfer out to the Aurora, Colorado Police Department. At that time, there was about 200 members of the department, and that's from the chief all the way down to the lowest officer. And I know that you were out there recently and spoke.
Yeah.
And it's somewhere around 780 right now. And with my time there is that I've worked patrol in all 3 districts. I was a school resource officer. I worked in dispatch as a dispatcher, which is a thankless job. So as much as you guys complain about your dispatchers, go spend a month up there and trust me. I was a police area representative. I did that. I worked within the community. I did long-term, short-term problem solving. We worked a lot of task forces, special crimes, etc. I was an investigator for the city attorney's office, on the civil side. So when the guys got sued, I did a lot of those, cases and backgrounds, and because attorneys suck, they don't know how to do investigations. So it was like, it was good that one of us were there to tell them how to do their job. Um, I finished up as I promoted to sergeant at the time. I was like the oldest officer ever to promote to the rank of sergeant. I was 54 years old. And for years, I was always the go-to guy. I was always obviously the senior guy on the team. So I was like dad. I was like the uncle. And when people had questions, and they had pushed me for years to promote, well, I was having too much fun.
It's always the
being a
case,
cop
isn't
is
it? Like, having fun, you don't want to go anywhere.
yeah, you don't. And it was, I was having a blast. To this day, if I was mentally and physically capable, even with today's day and age and everything that all the guys and girls are going through, I would go back and do it again. And people are going to hear that and go, "Oh, he's an idiot." No, I mean, policing and the camaraderie and the work was the greatest thing in the world. It's the most honorable profession there is, short of being a surgeon. This is it. I mean, you can be a hose dragger, but if you like pajama parties, 3-day sleepovers, and you can do that. But and I joke, but a lot of my friends, a lot of buddies are firemen. And then I finished out as a field training sergeant. So out of our agency at the time, before I left, there were 8 teams. So there were 8 sergeants. Each one of us had anywhere from 6 to 10 guys, FTOs, that we would run that team in addition to whatever patrol responsibilities we had. So directly before I left, I had 6 people that I worked very closely with. Love my guys. And about another 25 that I shared responsibility supervising.
Yeah.
So like I said, with that is that, man, I had a blast. I've worked several nonprofit organizations that I was able to get into and programs throughout the department. I created our Teen Citizens Academy, which is today is just continuing to expand. Great program. Our crisis response teams training is that I incorporated the training and I brought it into Aurora, where we did our own training as opposed to sending people out. So we continue to do that. And our crisis response team, which has continued to grow, which is a co-responder program. As you get older, you realize it's a lot easier to listen and try to help people than trying to make them do what you want. Ask, tell, make doesn't always work, especially when you get older and things hurt. It takes a couple days. I can still do what I had to do, but it takes a couple days to heal. So my heart has always been with supporting officers. Some of the organizations I belong to is Brotherhood for the Fallen. It's a national organization. Started in Chicago, then it expanded NYPD, Aurora, Colorado, Boston, Chicago. Let me see, Boston, Arkansas, South Carolina. If I leave anybody out and the guys hear this, they're gonna freak. Dallas, Fort Worth, and who am I missing there? And Suffolk County, New York. So there's 9 chapters throughout the country, and what we do is we would go to line of duty death funerals where officers were murdered in the line of duty, and prevent scholarships to the families. Cash scholarships to the families to try to do that and support the community and the police departments by showing up in uniform and going to those funerals. Something that was near and dear to my heart that I was able to get a lot of the younger guys involved with, because a lot of times we live in our own shell. We don't realize how things affect other people in other places. Brothers Before Others, national organization based out of New Jersey, mostly online. Cops from all over the country. Send flowers to line of duty death funerals, support a lot of community functions, fallen officer families. So just some great organizations that I was fortunate enough to be part of throughout my career. And then, tons of special events, whether it was baseball games, charity events, et cetera, et cetera. It's just that being in the uniform afforded so many opportunities to do so many different things,
Yeah.
be it training or going, like I said, tunnels to towers, going back for 9/11 to help out, 9/11 going back, um, which had an adverse effect. I mean, I lost, friends, personal, close to family, guys I grew up with, and officers that I worked with. So it's afforded me a lot of happiness, but also a lot of heartache. So
Let's talk about that for a second. First, I want to know though, what's your definite? Well, thanks for telling us, everything that you've done and your place in it. It sounds like you absolutely did love it, and you still would. Well, we've talked about this. You would still be doing it if it wasn't for yeah.
it was my
Sometimes
time. It was my time.
the brutality of the job at times. And we'll just put it at that. What's your definition of burnout, Tim?
Something, we could talk about the symptoms of burnout and how how you address the burnout. The burnout is just too much. I mean, it's you can only put so much sand in a 50-pound bag, and emotionally, you can only put so much on somebody's shoulders. People get into law enforcement for a myriad of reasons. Be it I need a career. We all say the same thing: is I want to help people. And regardless of the biggest asshole you've ever worked with that comes into briefings or you talk about is just miserable, he does it, and he does it to help people. And there gets a point in time where a lot of what I saw, great cops wanted to do their job. They wanted to do their job. They wanted to fight crime. They wanted to put bad guys in jail. And especially over the last 5 years or so, things changed. And I've seen so much burnout in the last 5 years. It used to be the guys that had 20 years plus, that needed the job because they're on their third ex-wife. They're, didn't manage their money well, etc. That they would just be miserable coming to work. We started seeing that with people that were great cops, that weren't over the hill, that weren't, dinosaurs. And it just put so much on their plate, and they would wake up in the morning miserable, and then come to work, and then they would be miserable, and then they would shortcut, and they would shortcut the citizens, and then they would shortcut their fellow officers. And from the moment they came in, they would watch the clock. We worked 410s, and after they get out of briefing, they're like, okay, I got 9 hours and 35 minutes left before I can get out of here. And to me, it was just it was watching people's spirit get broken. And that's what I looked at from the outside. The burnout. I mean, I've been there where believe it or not, I may have gotten in trouble a time or two throughout my career. And there are those times where we all carry that burden, and you stress out a little bit about what you've done, and then it's a matter of how you handle adversity. But I didn't want to come into work. And there were those times where bad leaders, crimes, people getting shot, not being able to do things because guys are hamstrung. That to me was the burnout. It's the psychological part of it. The physical part, I mean, for guys out there that are working 12-hour shifts on an agency that's really short, and they're getting called in on one of their days off, physically it takes a beating. Your body takes a huge beating. So there's that physical burnout. But we do it.
Yeah.
But we do it. You never want to let anybody down, but you do it. And as miserable as guys are, they were still coming into work. And I mean, there's really no other way to say it. It was just their cup runneth over, and they just had more just poured on them. And especially if you're a patrol guy, like they say, is the heart and soul is patrol.
It's like
everybody
it's
just
like
keeps
infantry
dumping
in the
everything.
military. The guys at the bottom have the most work, and are also the most important.
Yeah, and that's what leadership has always said, is that patrol is always the most important. The guys at the bottom are most important, but the guys who take care of themselves, the guys who take care of those guys at the bottom, are the guys that are just above this. Those are those sergeants, lieutenants, and those older officers that recognize that. And that's the burnout of today. I mean, and it breaks my heart. You know, when I left an agency that had a chief that came in that just ruined the agency. That when they talk about, you know, climbing the ladder, being woke, power hungry, you know, slitting the throats of the people that helped them, you know, on the way up. We endured that for almost 3 years, you know, and it broke a lot of people, and a lot of people quit on top of the backlash from George Floyd, you know, and everybody just hating the police. You know, it was like the late 60s all over again. Not that I was obviously there, people laugh, but you know, but it's a time where people just hated the cops, you know, and getting those guys through going, you know, okay, well, you're going to somebody's house and they're motherfucking you when you're walking into your house, and you're going, but you called me to help you. Well, yeah, you know, and that takes such a toll mentally on the guys and girls out there. And unfortunately, they show up. You know, we don't get to just go, I'm not coming into work today, you know. And to me, and I guess a very long roundabout way is that's the way that I look at burnout for people.
Now, you said that you've had a bit of a bout yourself, and I can relate. Everything you said was me before I left law enforcement. I was doing our version of Secret Service, so I was high up there. And if I didn't have to come in, like, we'd have office days where we'd come in and, like, really we didn't have a whole lot to do, maybe some paperwork and that, and I would just be like, nope, I'm not feeling so well today. If I was operationally needed, I grind through it, like you say, with every, we'll always turn up, and I'd grind through it, and I'd be that miserable prick that would sit there and bitch about everything that was going on and the bosses, and I'd feed into all of it. And yeah, it took a lot of energy to actually even sit there too.
It is a struggle. I mean, like I said, is at the tail end of my career being a supervisor is that I had different responsibilities. As an officer, is that I always felt that we had a job to do collectively, and if I didn't do my part, the chance it wasn't going to get done. I was always the go-to guy. There was one of the units that I was in had a life expectancy of maybe 3 to 5 years. You know, for officers, whether they promote out, they move on, they're removed, and I was in there for a little over 13 years. Now I always laugh, and the guys, I got the gift of gab. You know, I could talk forever, but I'm not that good of a bullshitter. So I was really good at my job, and whenever they wanted something done, I did it. You know, we had the opportunity to think outside the box and go out and do some experimental policing. You know, stuff that's never been done before. They said try it, and that was great at that time because they wanted results and they backed you to get that done. And when law enforcement started to change and the rules changed and they still expected you to get things done, and you couldn't do it, it's frustrating, especially for, like I said, the cops that want to go out there and they wanted to work. And it was really difficult for them to come in. And I was never, I'm not going to say I never took a mental health day. I mean, there were days that I just woke up and said, dude, I'd call my boss and go, it's not happening today. You know, I said, it's just, I have eye problems, and he's like, well, so-and-so, my co-sergeant that would work the same shift with me, he goes, well, so-and-so just called in 5 minutes before you and he wasn't seeing it either. And he's the senior guy. So, and I'm like, I'm going to be 5 minutes late, and I would come in, but I also had a very good boss that kind of looked at that and understood.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also had great people that worked on my team with me. They didn't work for me, but we worked together, but they worked on my team with me. And they knew, they knew that there were those times where I was having a bad day or I was tired, or, we all go through something personal. My dad died 3 years ago or 2 years ago. Yeah, almost 2.5 years ago. And I had just gotten promoted. So I had a young team. I was working graveyards. I was on vacation, for 2 weeks. And I spent basically my whole 2 weeks at hospice and sat there as my dad died. And when I came back, is I had a bunch of young kids. They were fresh, brand new out of the wrapper, out of the academy, but they were good kids. They were good people to work with, and hopefully I was training them the right way, and bringing them along. And they realized, they were like, Sarge, we're not going to call you. What do you mean you're not going to call me? Because young guys don't call you 5 times a night just to ask you, hey, look, I'm going to put gas in the car. Is it okay? But we're not going to call you. We're going to take care of you for once, and that, when you've got guys like that you work with, that's amazing, and that was the part that got me through a lot of my downtimes, and when it came to, the bad stuff and it was job related, 99 times out of, I'd say about 99 times out of 100, it was my fault. Whatever I got in trouble with, it was something I did.
Yeah.
And I'd own it, then it was just a matter of waiting the 6 months for them to, to figure out what they were going to do with me. But even during those stressful times, I took it personally. I wouldn't let anybody beat me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let the depression beat me. I wouldn't let, and I used our mental health services. We've got a great program in Aurora, where they back you 100%. If you need mental health services, you need to go see the clinicians, you go do it. The clinicians have no problem telling them, so-and-so needs to be off the road for a little bit.
Yeah.
They're having a hard time. So I always had somebody to go talk to. I had a good network with my guys, till today, these they keep me up until like midnight because I'm 2 hours behind them now. So we're still on a group thread, and there's some of the sickest, dumbest memes that come across, and my phone's pinging. I've got to shut it off, Yep. But that was a great support network. But my thing was always, and I put it upon myself, and my coping mechanism was I had to come in the next day because that's what I was expected to do. No matter what I saw, no matter what I experienced, no matter how many deaths, child deaths. I always tell people I've not seen everything, but I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two. Kind of like the guy in the farmers,
35 years, you're going to, regardless, whether you hunt it out or not, you're going to see stuff. On that right there, you've done a lot. You started in New York. You've been in Aurora. You were in Aurora for a long time. There's a lot that's changed over the years, but there's probably a lot of things that are similar. But I want to go back to, you had said something in the very beginning where it was like, there wasn't any of this mental health stuff back when you started. There wasn't any of the softer side of policing that we're seeing, especially these days. I think has been really ramped up and fast forward in the last 5 years. What'd you learn from back then that you brought into, say, the last 5-10 years of policing to really make sure that the guys that you were, to look after yourself so you can look after your family, but then also to be able to help look after the guys that, you were leading along in your team? What are some of those things that you recognize that you learned from back then going through all your stuff?
There's, I took care of my guys, and I could take it from a personal perspective, is that some of the stuff that I saw early on in my career, it was you'd have a guy hit by a train, a subway train, and it's like take a pineapple and throw it in front of a semi truck going 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's a lot of gallows humor, but you didn't get some of that stuff was just, hard. Watching people die, talking to them as they're dying because they got corkscrewed by a train, and they're stuck between a train and a platform. A guy my size is stuck down at like 9 inches. But you're talking to guys like that. Well, when you're done, it was, okay, well, John Wayne it and get back to work. You didn't take that time off. And you learn to, as my therapist said, is that you never learn to put it in a box somewhere else and get it out and get it away from you. So you carry that around for years and years. So when your guys, and this was even before I was a sergeant, prior to getting promoted, is we had the Aurora Theater shooting. And we were there. My partner that I was working with that day was a younger female officer that was in my unit, was a mom. ex-Marine, fantastic lady, tougher than nails. I would work with her over half the guys I work with. If that's sexist or not, I don't know. But she was just a fantastic lady. Well, we ran the bomb dog. We went through escorts with the bomb dogs, and we're walking through the theaters. Well, obviously, everything that you've heard about it is true. It was one of the most gruesome crime scenes I've ever been through. And they leave us. We wound up staying on scene for over 13 hours. So we had gotten there just at the back end of the event. So we were there for 13 hours. Well, as we're outside, she couldn't figure out what the sucking sound was. And it was all the blood and the body tissue and everything that was in her boots. So the first thing, she's like, what do I do? What do I do? So it was my job, because I'm the older guy, was to sit there and go, how do we address this right now? And it was finding a hose and getting her cleaned off, taking her shoes off, cleaning her shoes off, getting her squared away, and then realizing, oh shit, I've got mine there too. I had to do it to myself, and I didn't realize it. So here we are, is at the bottom half of our shoes, instead of mud, we're covered in blood and bone and all this shit. And as we had more things happen to us over the years, as you were on calls, you were cognizant of, this officer is a single mom, and we just went on a child rape, of an 8-year-old girl that was systematically raped by her two, crackhead, meth head uncles over a 24-hour period. She's not going to stay on that call. So it's immediately figuring out, are you guys okay? What do you need? What can I do for you? And it's intervening. But it wasn't just me at this point in time. It was more of a philosophy, because all of the guys that were coming up as sergeants, or a lot of guys that I was privileged to work with and train, all had that same mentality. Where in the old days it was, well, fuck it. By the way, it's your turn to go to lunch. Clean the blood off your shoes and then go to lunch. Okay, well, we had bosses that were slowly starting to realize that if you're on a crime scene for 14 hours, let's make sure we get them water. Let's get them Chick-fil-A. All right, there's a plug. Let's get them whatever. Make sure your cops are fed. Make sure they're comfortable so that they can do their job. And it was the simple things. So as the supervisor, is if you know your people, and you got to know your people, that's the most important thing. There are guys that I could, there are guys I can throw out and I could say, go handle it. Call me if you need me. And they're like, dude, I got it. And that's great. But I'm still going to check on them. I'm still going to make sure they're okay. I still know those days where it's like, hey, look, we're fat on Saturday. Why don't you take the day off and go fly fishing? Well, you sure? Yeah, get out. I would make my guys take that time off. But as far as while we're there, you got to know what your people are capable of doing. I didn't intervene unless I absolutely had to, or they needed me to, or they asked me to. Is my job was very simple as a boss, and every boss should have the same thing: is that your people are good at what they do. Give them the opportunity to make mistakes. All right. Don't chastise them for it. Let them grow, but let them learn how to do their job. And then when they learn how to do their job, let them do their job. Your job is simple. It's you're there to facilitate, educate, and advocate for them. And not always in that order, but you also have to hold them accountable when they did make mistakes and something completely stupid, like, why do we have 4 flat tires on a patrol car? Well, yeah, I drove into the parking lot, at 70 miles an hour and didn't realize there was, I wasn't going through the driveway. Okay, well, you're stupid. I mean, there's no other way to do it. But you realize, you've got to realize that there's a point for everybody, whether they're going through it or not. Know what their strengths and weaknesses are and work with those. And work with those. And that's I guess got me through my last 5 years working with great people. They always knew that they came to my desk. If you opened up my drawer to the left, there was enough junk food and candy in there. I kept, you name it, it was in there. And I found out what the guys liked and the girls liked. And it's like, okay, look, we've got NutriBars for the yuppies, and we've got, what were in there? Thin Mints and crackers and Starbursts and all this stuff. And I would buy them from the box stores, and it was always in there. So they always knew that. I had, believe it or not, I mean, I had soups and we had MREs, we had stuff in there just in case something happened where they couldn't eat. There was always a snack.
Yeah.
I had a mini fridge over there that I filled up with vitamin waters and Cokes. And
Nutrition's
Gatorades.
so important. You know, we're trying to perform like performance vehicles, and we're half the cops out there feed themselves like they're, you know, driving a banger from the 20s.
Yeah, but it's things like that where even if you just sit down, hey, how's things going? You know, how was your day? How did the call go? You know, did you need anything from me? Is there any, and I mean, I was reading their reports. I was watching them from afar. It wasn't just like, okay, well, they're out there playing, and I'll wait for them to come home from, you know, come home when the lights come on, which is an old reference. But kept my eye on them, and if they needed me, you know, I was there. You know, and
How did you go about? Because everything you're saying is excellent, and I know it's probably partly your personality as well. You know, looking after people, and it'll be part of your purpose and why, and there'll be stuff from childhood there that kind of leads that all in. But what is it that you did about it so that people that maybe they're not naturally inclined that way or something, or they want to, you know, level themselves up, or they're going for the promotion kind of roles, they want to start doing it now? What was it that you did so that you could get to know these guys at that kind of level? Because you're knowing these guys at a level, for you, I know it seems like, oh, this is just what I do, and I know them at that level, but it's at a next level. Like, I know the sergeants that I still say to this day are my best sergeants did what you're doing, or what you did. What did you do? Like, how did you learn about them? Like, what did you do to go about learning, like, so you could identify those things of, ooh, Chris isn't doing so well. Like, oh, we need, like, I'm going to bring him in and actually have that conversation and with him, or I'm going to, you know, send him off, or I'm going to make sure that, you know, how did you go about actually getting that information or knowing more about them?
There's number one, it's being honest. You know, it's being honest with the people that you work with. And there are sergeants that I've had, and people that have gotten promoted. And there was one sergeant that had this tag over his desk that says, "I'm not here to be your friend." You go, oh, you know something? There is some truth to that. Is that work is work. I mean, you're there as a supervisor. You're there to be a supervisor. You can be the big dick in the room, all right, in every sense of the term, and you can drop the hammer. And it took me a little bit of time to realize what type of sergeant I wanted to be, but I didn't want to be that guy. Now, I worked with the team when I first got this team of senior guys, senior FTOs. I sat down and talked to them, and they were a tight group. And as an example, and I sat down and I told them, I said, guys, here's what my goal is for this year. You guys are all very good at what you do. I said, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So I'm going to let you do your job. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, you know, not only professionally, but personally, because I want to know what I can do, not only to help you, because if you're not happy at home, and then you bring that into work, and we're going to have a problem, okay? Because you're not producing, and I don't know what I can do to help you before you do something stupid, before you lose your temper, before you don't want your recruit. And the guys that I worked with, I was comfortable, and I told them, I said, you know something, I like all you guys now. I said, hopefully by the end of the year, we're going to love each other, and we're going to have a great time while we're here. I said, but simple things. Let me know when you need something. You know, if you're not here to give me 100%, tell me that there's something going on. If you want to tell me, you can tell me. I said, if not, I'm going to have your back. Don't ever lie to me. Golden rule. I'll always be honest. If you're going to lie to me, we're going to have issues. You don't lie to me, I got your back 100%. Do your job. Let's laugh. Let's be safe, number one. Let's laugh. Let's have a good time. And there's going to be a point in time where I have to hold you accountable. It's business. It's nothing personal. All of those things happen. All of those things happen. I just talked to one of my guys the other night. He called me at 10 o'clock at night. It's 8 o'clock back in Colorado, and we yapped, you know. But you've got to invest yourself. You've got to listen. You've got to see who's sitting where in briefings. You've got to see, it's no different than high school. You've got to be a little bit more observant. But you've also got to sit there and as a guy, as a 54-year-old sergeant, I sat in a lieutenant's office and I would go in and one lieutenant I had worked with for years, as a cop. And I'd sit down, I go, teach me something. He goes, what? I said, teach me something. He goes, what am I going to teach you? You've been doing this for over 30 years. I said, teach me something. Tell me something that either I know it or I don't know it. And maybe I can use what you're going to teach me, or maybe I look at it and I go, that's stupid. But at least I learned. Every training that you go to, anybody out there that has the opportunity to go to training, and if you think it's stupid, it's huggy, kissy, whatever else, go. If you learn one thing from that for the week, you're smarter than you were when you went in. All right. It's a resume builder. It's a career builder. If you think you're getting burnt out, and that's another thing that you would realize with burnout, you'd see a lot of people, they put in for every single training class that they can get and volunteer for every special assignment because they want it off the road. They didn't want to do their job. But I digress. But I would sit down, but I wouldn't do that to one person. There was a sergeant that was very well respected throughout the agency. And he was an acting lieutenant because we were short our lieutenant. And we're sitting in a briefing one day and we're talking and two guys start yapping, and slap my hand down, on the desk to try to get their attention. And I'm like, guys, we're in the middle of briefing here. Come on. And Jerry and this lieutenant, he looks at me, didn't say anything. And we get done. I knew what the look was, and we get everybody out to where they got to go. And I sit down and I go, talk to me. And he goes, there are going to be times that you can drop the hammer. He goes, but there are other times where you don't have to. You can use the stick and you can get their attention differently than saying, because that was, I'm the boss, you're disrespecting me. I felt disrespected. And it was just two guys that were talking. It's the same shit that I've done.
Yeah.
But it's learning more about yourself and what type of person you want to be, because everybody thinks that they can be the boss until it's time to be the boss. Yeah. And we've all seen some of the worst people in the world that you would ever work for that are just toxic. And then there are those people that you look at and you go, my job was to make their day better. Yeah. And I had a captain that would laugh whenever I was in a meeting with him and my phone would ring. I'd had two phones. I had my personal phone, I had the work phone, and then I had the radio. And one would go, and if I saw it was one of my guys, I would always ask him, how can I make your day better? How can I make your day better? And they're like, Baba, bullshit. And I go, hey, look, I'm sitting here with the captain, right? Are you calling me just to BS and talk? Or do you need something? No, I just felt like talking. I said, is it something that you need right away, or can we pick it up in like 10 minutes? Oh, we can talk in 10 minutes. And it was just their way of, yeah, I guess, alleviating their stress, that they knew that they can talk, but I learned that that's what people needed, because that's what I would need. I like talking, I like talking to my bosses. And several of the guys that I work with, out of that initial crew, 3 of them sergeants right now, which I'm so proud of them. I really am. They're sergeants. Other people have gotten promoted. They've moved on to detectives, special assignments. My whole first year team, everybody, I felt like I put them in the right direction, giving them some guidance and some career development stuff to do. They're all in special assignments, which is a pretty big deal for some of them because they were only on for a year. So I guess I did something right as far as giving them some advice. Put yourself out there. Yeah. Realize that the people that you're working for are these people as a supervisor. They're the ones you're working for. Your job is to help them do the best job that they can. Keep them out of jail, keep them off of Facebook, or keep them out of YouTube, whatever, the social media thing of the day is, TikTok, and make them smarter than you, and the guys that have gotten promoted, I think, I really do. I think they are. I think they're going to be much better sergeants than I could be. They're cheap because they don't buy the candy. I just got a phone call the other day that said, hey, look, I would buy shit by the case. And I guess the last of the candy finally got eaten, after 6 months, 5 months. So I'm proud of that. I mean, that to me is I felt like I did my job. I asked people how I could do my job better.
You said a few things. One, like, it just threw me straight back to, I remember I got moved to another unit to do like for a secondment on our traffic. And my sergeant, first day, pulls me into his office and he goes, Chris, come here. I was like, okay, cool, come in. And he literally, almost word for word, said exactly what you did around like what you do, what you talked to the new guys about. I'm gonna probably have to reprimand you at some point. Make sure you're honest with me. Tell me exactly what happened, even if you feel like you did something wrong, and we can work through it. We can figure it out. He's like, if I have to reprimand you, well, then I will, because we can't, we're not above the law. But I'll help you through it, and we'll see if it is actually as bad as you think it is, or as bad as the complaint's saying it is. He's like, I'm always here. My door is always open. You can always come talk to me. This guy I'm still in touch with to this day. I stayed at his house a few years ago because he moved down south. Stayed at his house a few years ago with a friend of mine that came over from the States. We were riding New Zealand on motorcycles. And I was like, oh, hey, I know that he had an Airbnb. I was like, oh, we don't have any place to really stay. Could we, come through? And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, the rooms are yours. Whenever, like, if they're free, they're yours. And that's the kind of guy that, it reminded me a lot of that. And then the other thing that you said is the training side. And I remember going to a training once when I did protection services. And so, we're at that higher kind of level, semi-specialist, bodyguard to the prime minister. And I go to like the frontline hand-to-hand combat training because they wanted to move us up response levels, but it meant that we had to do lower level training than we already were. But go figure. So I'm there with them when we're doing hand-to-hand CQB stuff, and I'm teamed up with a sergeant, and he's sitting there. I don't know if you guys do the guard like we do, but it's in like this, and you're there, and he's out like this, and I'm like, Sarge, you need to like guard up, like, because during our personal protection training, we do a week where we're like this, elbow to elbow, and just bash the shit out of each other, like just a mouth guard, and three guys got concussed. They don't do it that way anymore. But and I'm sitting there, I'm like, Sarge, you need, and I just sat there, and I'm like, these guys don't care. These guys are just here to tick a box and go back to the street. And after I left law enforcement, I remember having a business mentor, and he goes, Chris, any training that you do, just take one thing away from it. He's like, I guarantee you'll get more out of it anyways. But if you go in there just looking to, just going, okay, cool, there's going to be one thing in here, or it's going to, like you said, for your CV, one thing is going to, it'll change your life. One thing each day, and you implement that in. That's why at the beginning of the recording, I say, just take one thing away from listening to this. Because if you can find one thing, you can change so much.
The other thing you look at is that even if it's training that you think is shitty, and you sit there and you go, I didn't learn anything. Okay, well, you did learn something. That means that what they were trying to teach you, you already knew, which means you were doing it right.
Yeah.
That's always the way that I looked at it.
It also gave you practice. It also gave you practice to do things and practice, because there'll be similarities. All these trainings that are out there, there's similarities that cross over. CQB, Krav Maga, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they all have similarities that do stuff. And you learn that, I remember my mom, so my background, I grew up sailing around the world. That's how I ended up here in New Zealand. So I'm originally from California. For those that don't know, sailed halfway around the world, ended up here in New Zealand. And I remember getting into yacht racing at 13. And I remember being on this boat, and I was like, they're doing stuff that I just don't think is right. You could be so much more efficient here and there and that. My mom's like, one, you're 13. You've been sailing for like 6 months. That's the first thing. But two, she's like, learn from these guys. These guys have been sailing for a long time. Learn from them. And if you don't like it, then put it on the back shelf. It might come up later. I can tell you this right now, all those things that I put on the back shelf, I've used them since in sailing, because I still yacht race in that. And it's that kind of mindset that I love that you distilled into people, because like you said in the very beginning, leadership is around, you're there for your team. You're there to help make them better. You're there to really uplift them. The question I have for you, because I know right now worldwide. There's a lot of talk around leadership. First question is, back in when you started and in the beginning days of your career, first half of it maybe, what was leadership like? And number two, what would you say to those guys that are complaining about leadership now that are starting their career?
I started in an agency. We had 6,000 people. I never, ever met the chief of police. Knew what his name was, Vinny Del Castillo. And then it was Bill Bratton. I worked for Bill Bratton afterwards. The bosses that were there, it was run like a business. It was this is what we got. This is what we've got to do. I was fortunate enough when I started, when I was in the academy, I worked for a man by the name of Robert Wheeler. And he was basically a gym instructor. He's phys ed, and Bobby was a good guy, no nonsense. Him and Jerry Weir, and Jerry, and still in touch with them to this day. And Bobby, as he moved up the ranks, he didn't change. He was a phys ed instructor, a self-defense instructor, and he would look and go, okay, well, you got to do things. Hey, you got to do things this way. You got to do it this way. And you'd watch him, and he was somebody that was, good shape. He was squared away, he was well respected. And then when he got promoted to sergeant, I ran into him as a young cop up in the Bronx on Central Booking, and he looked at me and he recognized me out of these 600 people that were in my academy class. He kind of pulls me over and he takes care of me, and thanks a lot, boss. Okay, well, this is what you need to do. Anything you need, come by and help me. It's okay. I know this is your first time up here. It's okay. And he would put you at ease. He would tell you what you needed to do. He would ask you if you knew what you needed to do. And then he would say, okay, well, if you have any problems, you come to me. You're on the right track. So that alleviates a lot of that stress and pressure. Where now I've worked for other bosses that said, what's taking you so long? You haven't gotten this done yet? And you're like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, And then Bobby comes to my district, and they form an anti-crime team, which is a bunch of guys plainclothes. He's gonna trust people to go out on their own, and go find shit. All right, it was fun. And my partner Chris and I, we wound up working for Bobby. He was, being a lieutenant, and they only took 14 people, so they had 7 teams, two-man teams. We were chosen, and he was one of the best bosses that I ever could have worked for. He knew how to take care of his people. He knew what the expectations were. He made sure that you knew what the expectations were, and he took care of you. And to this day, if the man called me and said, "Hey, I'm stuck on I-95 in New Jersey, can you come get me?" Yeah, it's going to be a while, but I'm going to come get you. There's been people like that I've worked for that I respected, because they weren't drill sergeants. I've worked for those. I've worked for bad bosses that told you what you needed to do and wouldn't give you any guidance. I also come from a different generation. All right. Back into boomer, beginning of Generation X. We grew up a lot different than some of the younger kids now, where you didn't have a whole lot of leadership. They told you what to do. Bill Bratton was one of the best people that I've ever worked for. If anybody, especially early on, things might have changed on the back end as he got older and politics came in. But he was great. He came in as the chief of the New York City Transit Police Department. He turned around and said, I'm changing patches, I'm changing cars, and I'm giving all my people 9mm. Why? Because we're outgunned, we're outmanned, and we need to we need to give the guys the tools that they need to do their job correctly, and I want them safe. And we were on a corner having a cup of coffee when he was telling us this. And my partner says at the time, "Hey, boss, what's the mayor going to say about this? And what's the police commissioner going to say about giving us 9s?" And he says, "I really don't give a fuck." He says, "It's my department. I'm doing things my way." So he bucked that system. He was the first one to say to us a big guy that said, "I'm going to give you what you need to do your job correctly.
I'm going to care about you I'm going to care more about you than I am about my own job."
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, he went back to Boston for a little bit. Then he came back as the police commissioner, but they realized what they had. And between him and Giuliani, who I'm not a huge fan of Giuliani, because he was a U.S. Attorney General before that and prosecuted cops. But I digress. Bratton was the type of guy who said, here are our goals. We need to meet these production goals, and here's what we need to do. We're going to reduce crime. and here's what I expect you guys to do, but I'm going to back you. And he did, and that was amazing to work with him. I've worked with another chief that was a Bratton baby that came up under Bratton when he came to Aurora. For 9 years, the man was there. Life of a police chief is 4 to 5 years, in any major department. Came in, did the same thing, let us do our jobs. Today's day and age, kids are different. It's a different, and I say that when I say kids, I look at it as anybody under 40. All right, as a kid, I was in law enforcement. Yeah, I was a cop.
I was
born.
born the year you got into law enforcement. So there you go.
Yeah. And longevity doesn't really mean, I was great at it. It just means that, I'm still here, I was like Phil Negro, I just pitched for a long time, throwing knuckleballs. So things changed. So, you had to look at things differently. And we got to the Y generation and try to explain why, and a lot of them had, my first couple recruit classes, most of my kids had never gotten into a physical fight. Never. Not a schoolyard fight, never hit. The one person I had, she was a pistol. She was a amateur MMA fighter out of Pennsylvania. And we watched some of her fights before she got in. And it was like, okay, we know that she can take a punch and she can, get a punch. And then you look at some other guys, you're like, okay, well, this is what you do. Where, you look at people's shortcomings and you try to address those shortcomings. Now, as an FTO sergeant, I saw that because we were evaluating these kids every day. And we knew what we had to do to make them productive. Now, out of I had 56 kids, I think it was 56 before I left, recruits that we trained. We lost 7. And when I say we lost 7 is we had to tell 7 people that this is not the job for you. And unfortunately, you're not going to make it through the program because they weren't safe. They were going to get killed. Yeah. And the hardest thing in the world was trying to tell somebody is that you're not going to make the grade, and there were some of them that were truly heartbroken because this is what they want to do. 2 of them actually went on to smaller agencies, were able to go through. But I think it was the mentality that we've got now is understanding that it's a different way to train people, that it's explaining to them why they're doing what they're doing. These are the laws in place. Here are your options. As cops, we want everything black and white. If I say one,
these days aren't
you
black
say
and white
2.
anymore.
and it's not black and white anymore. There's no gray areas, like there used to be. But they want to know exactly, well, if this happens, what am I supposed to do? And especially the older guys, that's where a lot of the burnout was coming in. Is the older guys said, well, I've always done things this way. This was the right way to do it. And now we're being told we can't do that. What I always hated, and we used an arrest control system. We used the Koga arrest control system. We used, and it was Bob Koga that was out of LAPD. And it's a great system when you're doing your car stops. We didn't use Riverside stops. We used, everything was Koga. And that's the way that Aurora did it from 1992 all the way up towards the end of my career. So if I never worked with you before and we went to do a traffic stop, you saw what I was doing and knew what I was doing and how I was going to do it. It was a system. There was no self-defense. They didn't have self-defense built in. So we wound up going to some Krav. But guys wanted to know, well, if this happens, what do I do? Well, you're going to have to find another thing to do. Well, like what? Well, find another thing to do. But they wouldn't tell you, and that would frustrate a lot of people. And you'd have to explain to guys, like they banned, or they made it illegal to use what they call chokeholds. So you can't put anybody in a carotid.
Yeah, which we were never taught the chokehold. We were taught the carotid hold, because I was one of the last kind of years to be taught the carotid. Oh my God, was it a great one if you knew how to use it.
Oh yeah, and if you had any common sense, a lot of people realized is that if you used a crossface and you stuck your wrist in somebody's temple and you squeezed their head until the point where their eyes were coming out of their head, it's not a chokehold.
No.
And you'd have to tell guys, this is now your option. Yeah. This is what you can do. The old days, they used to say, well, hit them with whatever you had in your hands. Sometimes that was, a Model 10. If you had your gun in your hand, it was an 8-cell flashlight,
Yep.
which the only thing that those were good for was hitting people because they suck to illuminate anything. Um, so rules changed. So you had to teach the new generation. Um, and I was fortunate that I was able to see that. And a lot of the training that we did is that we trained the trainers to learn how to train.
Yeah.
If it, and that's the thing, but it's not only the training aspect to say, okay, you have to teach them A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you have to do it in this order. Here's your book. I mean, the FTO program we had was phenomenal, with the way that we did everything, where we evaluated them. And um, it really was. If anybody needs a program, to do training, let me know, as I'll put you in touch with the it was so simple. It was stupid. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
They want it.
but we made sure the people that were doing the job knew how to do their jobs, and understood the kids that they were going to be in the car for 10 hours with.
Yeah.
I had a 55-year-old guy in a car with a kid that was 21 years old, and he would sit there and just look at him. You couldn't call him stupid. I would always tell them and say, look, we expect you to make mistakes. You can make the mistake once. It's okay. Don't worry about making a mistake. Don't not make a decision or do something. If you're going to do something that's going to get you hurt or indicted, we're going to step in and we're going to stop you.
Yeah.
But make a mistake so that we can see what your thought process is. And if you make the mistake, we're going to talk to you. If you make the same mistake twice, we understand. I mean, it's a stressful situation, and we're going to talk to you, and we're going to ask you, hey, look, we went over this once already. Now, if you make the same mistake a third time, I have no choice but to look at you and say, you're stupid. You're not getting this. And it usually got the kids to the point where they'd say, Sarge, I got you. I'm tracking you. I understand what you're saying. And I very rarely had kids that would make the same mistake twice. And if they did, you looked at them and you say, you know what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And they go, yep. I says, but if you make the same mistake the third time, I says, do I get to call you out in front of everybody else? Because if you're going to discipline, you do it in private. Okay. Yeah. You discipline, you do it in private. If you're going to praise them, you do it publicly. And I'm a firm believer in that, I mean, every once in a while, some guy, hey, look, I told you not to walk on the grass, and in the multifamily, apartment complex at night. Don't do it. And you guys didn't listen to me. I always told you take the concrete paths and go the long way. And there was the one kid that got in the car and couldn't realize where the dog shit smell was coming from as he stepped on his brake. And it's on his foot. And it was all over the place. And when he sent me a message and says, hey, I have to go to the shops and clean up my car, what happened? And he had to tell me.
You walked on the grass.
Well, you walked on the grass. I said, so I told him, I said, so exactly what I was telling you not to do.
Yeah.
For a reason, you did it because it was a shortcut. Yes. Okay. So there are those times where, then you have fun with them, but it's understanding. And I'm fortunate. My kids are older. My baby's 29 years old. So 29, 24. Yeah, do math. Yeah, he's 29 years old. My oldest is 33. So I understand some of the millennials. But my kids were brought up a little bit differently. It was black and white. Here's why you do what you do. They could ask after they do what I told them to do. They'd say, "Why do you tell me to do it that way?"
Yeah.
But I also went to classes, and I also learned about basically what my charges were. What I was supposed to do. And anybody that doesn't take the time to educate themselves and learn, as a sergeant with my first female recruit officer that got out of the academy that came to my team. I worked with my first year, all guys, they were called the Over the Hill Gang. Everybody had over 20 years on the job. And they sent me this kid who had just gotten out of the academy, a girl, young, naive, attractive. And I had to go to other female officers and say, I need you to meet me. And two people I trusted. And I said, what do I do? I know how to deal with guys. I had coached football and baseball for my boys from when they were 5 up until they were 14, each one of them. And I understood dealing with explaining things to men. I had worked with female officers, but they were all experienced people. Some of the, like I said, some of the greatest cops, that I've worked with. But I didn't know how to supervise one, and I had to ask, "What do I do? How do I treat her?" I says, "I'm not supposed to treat her any differently than the guys." And they're like, "Yeah, you have to," but you don't. And it was finding that line. But I educated myself to the point where Mary and I are great friends today. She still calls me from the road, and says, "Hey, I have a question for you." I'm like, "Okay." Um, and it's that trust and that relationship that we've developed, that I feel very comfortable with. But I took the time to learn to do that. And you, as a boss, if you think you know everything, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
If you're a brand new, the guys that come in as, you're a sergeant, now you're going to be a lieutenant. You're a lieutenant, now you're going to be a captain. As soon as you think you know it all, you don't. And that's the biggest mistake we make as cops, is that we think we get to a point where I'm not going to do that shit. I'm not going to do that training. I know what I'm doing. No, keep learning, because shit's going to keep changing.
Yeah.
I took a class 2 weeks before I left because it was available, and I said, why not? And I continued to do that because I didn't want to let the people down that I was working for by not being as educated as I could or knowing as much as I could when the opportunity was right in front of me. And a lot of that had to deal with, like I said, I legitimately loved each and every one of the guys I work with. I really do. There are people that I worked with in the agency that, if they were calling for help, I'd be there. There are some of them I'd wait for the light to change before I went across the street and pissed on them if they were on fire, but I would still do that. I can say that in my 35 years, there are two people that I actually fucking hate that I wouldn't say I'd let them die, because I wouldn't let it happen. But I wouldn't cry at their funeral. It's one of those things that's like, okay, you're gone. Bye. It's not a great loss in this world. And that's sad. That really is sad, especially in our profession. I never want to see anything bad to happen to anybody. But if it did to these two people, I could give a shit. That's pretty good.
That is pretty good. That's
pretty
actually
good.
that's really good. And those that are coming into the profession, that's the kind of stuff that you get to look forward to. Last question I have for you. Well, one of the last questions, but as we kind of wind down, I want to know what would be like two things. Like, let's think of the new rookies. What would be the two things that you would recommend to them so that they don't burn out and they can do 35 years and still love the job like you do?
Don't sweat the small shit. Rule number one. People are going to be assholes. They're going to motherfuck you. They're not going to treat you right. It's not you personally. It is the uniform. People will either respect the uniform or not respect the uniform. You got a job to do. Regardless of everything else that happens, find a way to do your job legally, safely. Make sure that no matter what, you can go home at the end of the night, which is rule number one, and look at yourself in the mirror and said, I am not ashamed of anything that I did today. And I did everything that I possibly could, because there's a great line from, if you've ever read a Michael Connelly book about the Harry Bosch series. Harry Bosch had a saying, is that everybody counts or nobody counts. And you treat people right. You're going to be dealing with crackheads. You're going to be dealing with Fortune 500 CEOs. Treat people right. Be professional. Do your job. That's very simple. If they're going to pay you, and in some cases, some of these kids, after like 3-4 years, they're making 100,000 plus. You're on the coast, okay? You're in LA, San Diego, up, you're making $170,000 as a cop. That's a good chunk. excuse me, that's a good chunk of change. Earn your pay. As far as burning out, don't take it personally. Don't take it home with you. Um, I am very fortunate, and I say this, is that I had a family that loves cops, that backed me 150%. I have an amazing wife who I think she just got back home a little while ago, so I don't want to say this too loud, but I have an amazing wife that I didn't burden with some of the things that I've seen. Um, some of the things that you've got to do on the job. You know, things were different back in the early days. And you've got to understand that you've got to deal with your mental health. We didn't have the chance to do that. You know, it was about 7 months before I realized I was retiring that, wow, this is real. You know, I bought a new house in another state. I was going to move away because I started to realize that everything bad that had happened to me over the last 30 years or that I experienced was all around me. You know, I'd come out of my neighborhood and I'd make a left, and okay, well, that's the spot where the guy killed 2 of his kids, you know, with cough syrup. You know, I don't want to go there. I go down the block over here. It's like, yeah, well, that's where the child rape was. I drive down another street. It's like, well, this is where Doug was killed in an accident. You know, this is where Mikey was shot. A lot of that, I was like, okay, well, I had to live with that stuff because I knew I had to go back to work. Um, I didn't get the self-care that I needed. And I'm an advocate for it. And I tell everybody, I says, if you're not, and I made my recruits, I couldn't make them do this, but I strongly suggested that the single guys is you need to use peer support. If you don't have peer support, you need to go, you know, if you're not using peer support, which we had a great program, you need to go make an appointment with our psychological services. You know, and we're very fortunate. It's paid for by the city. It's 100% covered. It's 100%, unless you're going in there saying, you know, I'm going to go postal or I'm going to kill myself. You're good. You know, make sure that they had a resource to go unload, even if it was once a month. Have a resource that you can go to. I was always very fortunate is that younger is I partied a lot. Okay, we went out and we drank. You know, we got off at 8 o'clock at night sometimes, and we'd drink until 4 o'clock in the morning. I was very fortunate is that I wasn't those guys that went home and that would crack a bottle of Jack and knock off a third of a bottle of Jack, you know, with some Dramamine or some, you know, some sleeping pills in order to go to sleep. And again, with my family, I was very lucky, but you've got to have a good balance. If you're bringing this stuff home, it's going to affect your family life. And if your family life is fucked up and then you're going back to work and you're stressing out over the stuff that's going on at work, you've got nothing. You've got no balance. So if you're an athlete, play softball. Softball season only covers, you know, a couple months. If you do CrossFit, everybody knows you do CrossFit. No offense to the people that do CrossFit, but you've told everybody already that you do CrossFit. I'm not a CrossFit guy.
I'm not either. It's just
you know, but it's have something that you can go do that you can, even if it's, we have guys, hey, ammo for the department is free. They'd bring you in and you can go shoot, you know, go walk. You got a dog, take your dog out, you know, you live
those
by
things
an ocean.
to recharge. You know, I talk about these a lot, and even at the training that I ran for Aurora, I really emphasized on it. You know, self-care. I do a thing that's called, it's a pyramid. I call it the life pyramid, and it's 3 levels. And you got self at the bottom that makes up the foundation. You've got, then it's your relationship, and in that relationship, it goes your personal relationship. It then goes your kids. It then goes family, and then at the very top is work. And I have everybody rate it, and not one of them said that self fell at the top level. It was always family. Normally it's family, and then it goes work, and then it goes self. And so this pyramid does not look like a pyramid anymore. It really looks like a really screwed up looking diamond that has a bigger base at the top. And what I emphasize with that is, like you said, going, having those things outside, playing softball, going to CrossFit, going to the gym, taking the dog for a walk, going to the range. But what I also recognize, especially running those trainings and doing this for a little while now, is that it's also the way that you look at it. If you're going to softball and you're there with all your cop buddies playing on the police softball team, talking about work, and you're there to be there so that it's more, and it falls into the work bucket, it's not the self bucket.
Yeah.
Really make sure that it's that self bucket, or shift the thought. One of the chiefs that I was there, he and his wife loved to cycle. And so he's like, yep, cycling's my thing. I was like, okay, cool. And ma'am, yours? And she's like, yep, cycling's my thing as well. I was like, cool. Do you guys do it together? Yeah, we do it all the time. I was like, how often does he leave you in the dust? Oh, yeah, it happens. I was like, okay, cool, perfect, sir. How often do you feel completely full and you're there and you're like, really, I should slow down for my wife more, but this is my thing. He's like, yeah, there's times. I was like, well, just shifting that focus and being there. Now it's partially filling yourself up, but it's hitting that relationship cup more, but you're still doing it. Now there's going to be days where you're going to go, sorry, babe, I've got to just ride. And those are probably the days you should go off on your own, and you should do it. I did the same thing with motorcycle riding. I'm lucky my wife finally decided to jump on the back of my motorcycle. There's a lot of times where I'm just like, I'm going for a ride. And she's like, good, because I don't want to get on the back of your freaking crotch rocket. Go. but then there's other times where I'm like, I really want to take the bike tonight to go to the sports game or to go do something. And she'll go, okay, cool, we'll hop on the back. And she knows that that's filling me up, but then it's also is hitting our relationship because we're going to do something that is for us as well. And so it's that, like you said, I love the fact that you said you got to do something for yourself, because it's so, so important. I want to finish off here, unless you had something else to add to that, Tim.
I guess the one thing I can say is this, and no matter how you say it, it comes out wrong. And you'll know who I'm talking about, is that I had a person that I worked with, and the guys we'd sit at briefing, and my goal was this, is that your first 15 minutes of your day should not be miserable. We should come in, we should have fun. We'll get to business when we need to get to business, but the first 15 minutes, I don't care, what we're doing, whether we're pulling videos out of our ass, as long as they're appropriate. We would put videos up on the screen, we would do some training, stuff like that. And we would make those first 15 minutes good. And there were those days where guys vented, and life sucked. Everything was bad. We were on the news again. Oh my God, this asshole from some department in Wisconsin, just did a video, and now we're all going to be thrown in the same box. And guys would bitch, and I fucking hate this. And this one person, who you've met, said, well, if you don't like it, find something else to do if you don't want to be here. And there's a way of saying it, but it's actually true, is that if you're not happy with what you're doing, go find your happy somewhere else. Because this is always going to be a job. This is a profession. To me, it was a lifestyle. And I made it a lifestyle, and my family, like I said, supported me 150%. I would come home and I would see a brand new blue line flag or a new decoration. I go, where'd that come from? My wife's like, I got it. Where are we going to put it? She goes, oh, we're going to put this shit right here in the middle of the living room. Oh yeah, we did. We flew a blue line flag out in front of my house. My wife had the decals, the stickers, gun in her purse. It was the family that we were, but got a lot of support. But you've got to find your happy. Yeah. You need to set yourself up to move along in life. So if you don't want to be a patrol officer and you want to move along, go through the trainings, set yourself up, read, educate yourself, do what you need to do. There's a lot of skills, if you take the time, that will cross over to the private sector, that you can use. So being a cop, it's like the joke always used to be, well, what do you do in the military? Well, I repair tanks. Okay, well, what else do you do? Well, I was a gunner on the tank. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you did diesel mechanics and all this other stuff. Okay, well, that's a marketable skill outside. Yeah. There are guys that can do that. If you're not happy, don't stay. The worst thing that you can do, and there's a lot of us that got trapped, okay? When you're there for 10 or 15 years and you're in a department that does like a 20-year pension, or 25 and out, they're going, okay, well, I've only got 7 more years and then I can leave. Those 7 years can last 20 years. My 35 plus years went like this.
Yeah,
I mean, because I just had
I
so
would
much
say
fun.
it's dead true if you're not happy, but I'd add on there from my coaching stuff just for those listening, is figure out why you're not happy first. What is it exactly? Because we can all have those down weeks, months where just shit's just not going right. And you get in this spiral. And I love what you were saying. Your first 15 minutes of the day, you guys put videos up, you've had to have a little rant. You'd make sure that it was fun. You'd prime the shift for positive outcomes, for fun. We can get trapped as cops into that negative spiral of this is crap, especially when you have a team, which it doesn't sound like your team, Tim, was that, but it sounds like you can have a team where, or there's lots of just external stuff happening where it's just negative on negative on negative, and we start compounding it. And then we go, well, I just fucking hate this job, and it's just the job. If it's external negative stuff and it's not actually you, it's that. Is that what you're focused on more of, or are you focused on the impact and the helping the people every single day? Because they're two totally different things.
It's definitely a struggle. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a struggle for
It's consistent and
for guys
constant
to
work.
come in. I mean, there is never, like I tell people, there is never a good circumstance that I'm going to run into you.
No.
All right, if I'm working, hey, we recovered your stolen car. Okay, well, your car was stolen. Hey, I found your wallet that was stolen that they broke into your house. Okay, it's not like a fireman where, hey, we saved your shed and the doghouse, but the rest of the house burned down. Oh, you saved the shed, the doghouse. Oh, great. We don't get that.
Yeah.
and guys, it's a huge burden, at times, and that's the hard part. So the self-care is very important. Understanding that you're going to deal with people at their lowest, at their absolute lowest. And the chances are is that those first 15 minutes of the day might be your best 15 minutes, which is why whenever guys came in at the end of the day, I would tell them, come see me before you went to debriefing, and made sure that they had candy or something to drink, or I mean, I'd go out and get ice creams and shit and bring ice creams back, just to give them something there. But if those little things are band-aids and they're not helping you and the bleeding continues, you got to figure out what the best thing is for you. And if the response is, I can't leave, I need the money. Okay, well then what we've said is that, how do we make it better for you? What can we do to make it better for you so that you're not miserable coming into work? How can I help you? That's the most important thing, is know what you need in order for you to get your happy back. Because when we all came on the job,
we're happy.
Everybody, I used to make my guys shine their shoes, and they were like, come on, boss, I got to shine my shoes. You go, just shine your shoes every day. Why? Show me that you're taking pride. At least that one thing that you would take pride. Now, there were the guys that used the cheat stuff, that came out of the squeezy bottle. They'd spread lemon pledge on their boots. I don't care. But they took the effort to at least make sure their boots looked good. It's like making your bed in the morning.
Yep.
I wish I had a magic button that can solve the problems for all of my cops. It's not going to happen.
No.
But the only thing that I can do is control how I behave. And the only thing that you can do for anybody that's having a hard time out there is you're in charge of your morale. Nobody else. I don't give a shit if you've got a shitty boss, if the laws have changed. If it's 95 degrees out and you got to go direct traffic, outside at the intersection, it's going to suck. But it doesn't mean like when the little kid is driving by in the car that you can't smile at them, that you can't be human. And that's the thing, is that don't let other people and events control who you are and how you're going to be. because at the end of the day, when you go to sleep, you've got to go to sleep and realize you got to come back and do it the next day. So some of the most unhappy people in the world, you got to figure it out. And there's nobody that can figure it out but you. But there are other people, no matter what you're going through with, you know, anything, any sort of stress on the job, or when you feel like you're at a breaking point, you are not unique. There are other people that have done it. They are not you. You know, no one's going to know what you're going through, but there are things that like I've gone through similar, or I've seen somebody go through it, and I might know a little bit more than you do at this point in time. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I've just seen a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And I write it down because as you get older, you guys will realize that you're going to forget a lot of this shit too.
I forget a lot of stuff as as it is, Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the best advice I can give somebody in a nutshell is that take care of yourself. Don't let anybody control, and that's in life. You know,
Yeah.
don't let anybody control your happy.
Yeah.
You know, and make yourself happy, but not at the expenses. Like I would always say this is that be happy, but don't be happy at the expense of somebody else, because now you're fucking up somebody else's day.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but do what you can do to take care of yourself. But everybody's got to figure out what that is, whether it's collecting baseball cards, swimming, getting on the back of a motorcycle. What's killing me is that I sold my bike before I moved out here because it was one more thing. Find something. I mean, right now is that my peace of mind is I haven't had a haircut since Easter. All right. I've always had high and tight, number one on the sides, number two on the tops. I'm letting it grow out. Why? Because I can.
Yeah.
You know, I've never been a fan. I hate beards at work. I hate them. It's so unprofessional. I'm a traditionalist. Well, I kind of look good in it. You know, I mean, I like it. My wife likes it. I take my dog to the beach in the morning. We go walk in the beach. We chill. You know, it's finding that thing, that center, that peace, your chi is what you need to do. And slowly, I think that we're starting to get to it. I just want the younger guys to realize is that don't make the job your life. Okay. Take pride in it. Do it well. Whatever you do it once and do it right, because no one will question you. They'll question you whether you do it right or wrong, but no one will question whether you did everything you possibly could if you do it right.
Yeah.
And you know, be happy. That's the big thing, is be happy. I've been very fortunate that I made it to this point. I'm very proud because there are people that I work with that I love that didn't make it, that they died young, you know, either at their own hand or at somebody else's hand. And that's the hardest thing to have to deal with, is that what did they do? What did they do wrong, or what did I do right?
Yeah.
And in the end, it's all luck, bro. It all comes out to luck. There's some skill involved, but we all do stupid shit that you go, skated by on that one.
Yeah. You know,
Take care of
you know,
this and take care of this.
yeah, exactly. You know, that's the whole thing, you know, that being happy. I love, you know, to wrap up that whole thing that you just said right there. You know, you're growing the goatee out, you're growing the hair out a bit more because, you know, because it makes you happy now. You're taking the dog for a walk. Find those things that make you happy. Don't wait till you retire. You know, for all
And don't
those that
spend.
are listening, don't wait till you retire to do it. You know, make sure that you implement those things in now, because guess what? The world is exactly the same when you're a cop or when you're retired.
Yep. You know, when you die, they're not going to have a U-Haul behind you with all the toys and the things that you bought, you know, and 10 years from now, no one's going to know who you are. You know,
But
it's
10
100 years
years,
from now.
5 years
Yeah.
from now. I mean,
You know, my phone doesn't ring as often as it did. And I lived on that phone 24/7. And I'm thankful for that. But do the right thing. I mean, it's just do the right thing, but do it for yourself. You can't take care of anybody else. You put yourself first. People say, well, no, I got to put my family first. Well, if you can't protect your family and take care of your family, you're failing. So do that. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of the job, All right, those people that you work with, take care of the community, because that's what you're supposed to do, and be able to look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day. And realize that there was nothing that I did that I'm ashamed of. I didn't buddy fuck anybody. I'm not a Blue Falcon. There are guys that can do that. I don't know how, but live to be. I'm going to be 60 next year. I made it to a point where I didn't think that I'd get, and I'm very fortunate to be where I am and what I have. So I hope everybody gets to that point. I hope they do it better than I did. And everybody's got that. Everybody's got that opportunity. And don't ever think that you're smarter, bigger, or better than the next guy, because even Mike Tyson got beat.
Yeah, I love that. We'll wrap it up there, Tim. Those are some great finishing words from you. Thank you very much for being here. Thanks for your service. Thanks for all the years, all the wisdom. It sounds like all the coaching and all the leading that you did with the teams that you worked with. I'm sure we'll see you again very soon. Any last words, Tim, before I jump into our close down?
No, I mean, I'll make sure that I leave you an email address. I mean, if anybody's got any questions.
What's the best email so that people can get in touch if they so choose and they want to?
I'm going to give you that as soon as I pull it up, because I can't remember. I've got so many different email addresses that I use for certain things. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, 55 Jeff CO. So it's 55 JEFFCO @gmail.com.
Gmail.com. There we go.
Hit me up there if you've got a question. I leave a life of Riley right now, so I don't. It took me 45 minutes to find my phone today because I leave the ringer off and the vibrator off, and I put it somewhere. Even to the point where I was digging through the washing machine as my clothes were in there trying to find my phone. The dog was sleeping on it on my bed, so it was kind of funny.
You really have taken and embraced that chill. I love it, Tim. So there's the email 55. So that's 55 JeffCO @gmail.com, and I'm sure people can reach out to you on LinkedIn and that as well. That's how we connected. I want to thank you, Tim, again. Thanks for everything, and for everybody listening and watching. Remember, as I said in the beginning, take one thing away. If you do need more assistance, you do need more help, there are services out there. We also do help you prevent and overcome and fight burnout. You can go to createfromwhy.com. That's createfromwhy.com. If you're a police department that wants to learn more around how to prevent and overcome burnout in your department to save you money, stop those use of force complaints, stop people leaving, please also check out createfromwhy.com. You can also email us at createfromwhy@gmail.com. If you want to just straight email me straight up. Again, get out there, guys. Have fun. Enjoy yourself. You do the best job in the world. Yes, it is the hardest, but you do the best job in the world. And so get out there, train hard, test easy. Until next time, stay safe.